All right. So I guess that it's just about time to start at this point. So hello everybody, first of all, and welcome to this webinar for educators about how to teach with business simulation games. So my name is Zsuzsa Jakab, and I will be your host today on behalf of Cesim Business Simulations. So I'd first like to introduce our excellent guest speaker today, John Greene, who is a lecturer of digital media and international business at Metropolia University of Applied Sciences in Helsinki, Finland. So he will be talking about how to get the most out of teaching global strategy and marketing management with business simulation games. Right?
Good afternoon from my side. So as Susan introduced, I'm a digital marketing and international business lecturer in Metropolia University of Applied Sciences, and I'll talk you through how I use the simulations and my experience with them.
All right, thank you. So I will start with some housekeeping issues first, just to kind of get those out of the way quickly. So this webinar will be running for about an hour with 45 minutes of presentation and 50 minutes of Q&A at the end. So what this means is that please hold on to your questions until then, and we'll make sure to answer all of them at about 15 minutes before the end. So of course, if there are more questions and there's time, then obviously we'll be happy to answer those privately later on. So you can see on the agenda that we'll briefly cover some cultural trends, cultural and technology trends, and just to give you kind of a premise for the rest of the webinar. Then we'll dive deeper into simulation-based learning, and finally some best practices from John about the practicalities of teaching with simulation games. And as I already said, we'll conclude the event with a 15 minutes Q&A session. So the webinar is also being recorded, so it will be possible to view it later on, and the presentation slides will be uploaded to the Sesim SlideShare profile that you can see on the screen. Your audio at this point is automatically muted, so you don't have to worry about that, but like I said, please let me know if you have any issues with the video or the audio during the presentation. All right, so without any further ado, let's start off with our first topic of the day, that is top cultural and technology trends that shape education. Well, I would like to start with one phenomenon that a lot of you may have already noticed, that is the emergence of software as a service or cloud computing technologies. So in schools, these may appear in the form of browser-based learning supplements and other educational tools that can be accessed by your students from pretty much with any computer with an internet connection. Then another certainly significant trend is what we call hands-on learning, or learning by doing. Now, studies show that knowledge retention is in direct correlation with the involvement of the person with the subject at hand. So I would actually be quite curious at this point that would you all like to take a guess, just a guess here, that what is the knowledge retention rate of hands-on learning defined in a percentage? So just go ahead and type your answers, your guesses in the chat window, and I'd be really curious to see if anyone got it right or got it close. So once again, what we're talking about here is a percentage rate, and so what is the knowledge retention rate of hands-on learning? I'm going to give a little bit of hint here, is that it's relatively high, or it's fairly high, as you may guess. So just go ahead and type in some guesses here if you have any. There is no right or wrong answer, really. Oh, I would be really interested to see some some answers at this point, but there is a chance that that the listeners are at this moment just getting into the topic. But I guess that that I'm gonna have to give you the answer at this point, which is actually 75%, which is only preceded by the notion of teaching others, which has a 90% retention rate. This research was done by the National Training Laboratories. So Now, this is about knowing how knowledge is retained the best, which of course doesn't solve the challenge of what information should you pass on to your students in an age where information is ubiquitous, what is valuable for them to know, and more importantly, how to transfer that right type of information into an engaging format, basically. Then we've got a generation called millennials on our hands who are not only way more adept at technology than any generation before them, but they also have a remarkably short attention span, and as you might have noticed in your own class. So the last trend that I'd like to mention is simulation-based learning, which is also the main focus of this webinar today. And in its web-based format, this is largely the derivative of the already discussed phenomenons. Now, most of you likely already know what simulation games are when applied to business, but so just very, very quickly for those who don't, business simulation games are educational tools that, by utilizing technology, allow students to make business decisions typically in a round-based, controlled, and risk-free environment. So, I mean, simulation games are a learning tool and a complement to theoretical knowledge. So as a process that you can see here on the screen, the business game starts with an activity phase. This is when, this is what you can see on the top right there. This is when the students get acquainted with the game environment and the case at hand. This is also typically when the teacher explains the goal of the exercise, organizes the themes, and sets the schedule. Now, John will expand on this a little bit later. So then the next two steps are when most of the teamwork is happening. The students discuss the case, they organize their thoughts, they debate the decisions to make, and then they develop some business strategies to beat the game. Now, without any further involvement from the instructor, this is likely where the exercise would be concluded. So with one of the teams coming out as the winner and the others as the rest. But when looking at business simulation games, I guess we really mustn't forget that our ultimate goal is to transfer knowledge. So the part of applying knowledge, planning and effective use of learning is a very important part. And assessing this kind of knowledge is, I think, one very exciting topic that John will also talk about a bit later on. Right. So this all leads me to how this ties in with what we do here at Cesim. Well, first of all, we are obviously very excited about simulation games and simulation learning as such. So what we have done during the last more than a decade, really, is to develop a comprehensive browser-based business game solution that is based on a powerful administration platform that is kind of at the core of everything, the Cesim instructor. And so as an instructor, this is sort of your base of operations as a teacher. This is where you set up and manage your simulation-based courses. And then around that, we have, of course, a number of simulation games that you can choose from. I'll be talking about two of them in a minute in more detail. And finally, of course, we provide training and support throughout the whole experience. So sort of just to make the whole integration of the game as seamless as possible. So, right, the simulation games that we are focusing on today are our International Strategy Management Simulation, that is Cesim Global Challenge, and then our Marketing Management Simulation, Cesim Sim Brand. So at first I'd like to go through some of the things that are common to both, which would of course be that, like all of our simulations, these are completely browser-based. They can have up to 12 rounds per game, and they have a dynamic multiplayer and multi-language environment. And of course they're both built with solid economic concepts in mind, as we will see in a second. So Cesim Global Challenge is, as I said earlier, an international business simulation game. Now, it aims to develop the students' understanding of the complexity of global business operations in a dynamic, competitive environment. It integrates a range of concepts from various management-related disciplines like economics, finance, accounting, production, marketing, and so on, as you can see there on the screen. So the task for the students in this game is to manage a global company through technological evolution in a fast-paced 21st century operating environment. And then at the same time, they develop and execute various strategies for their simulated company, which operates globally in the US, Asia, and Europe. So now as we're going into kind of looking at the game itself, you can see that sort of after the teams have been set up, the game starts with taking a look at suggested steps, and then basically the first students must familiarize themselves with the market conditions of the case at hand. This changes every round. One round represents 1 year in the game. And after reading the market outlook, students will move on to analyze demand and make a number of decisions in production and R&D, and also in marketing, as you can see on the screen, like number of features, average selling price, and promotion. Also in logistics, some transportation priorities. But I would not want to go into this in detail. We can certainly show more of this later in a more dynamic format. But as you can see, the simulation game really kind of ties in all the functional areas of the company. And then so once a team has agreed on whose decision set to use, then they will save those decisions on the checklist page. Then they can view the results after each round, of which there can be a maximum 12, like mentioned earlier. And here they can see how they fare against the other teams based on various financial performance indicators. Under the Readings tab, they can find some documents that were provided by us, like the decision-making guide and some case descriptions, and you are also basically able to upload your own materials for your case. And of course, in case of any technical issues, the students can get in touch with our help desk service through the support tab. Now that I have walked you through just the basics, really the basics of Cesim Global Challenge, I would like to give it over to John, who will talk about some very specific examples of how you can use this simulation in your classroom.
Okay, thanks, Susan, for that. If I move on to the next slide on my on the chart, we can see from there that here's an example of how we can combine theory and practice. So we have the market outlook that Susan mentioned students need to review as they begin the round. So each round this changes. And on the right-hand side, you can see that I have taken a print screen from one of my students' reports. And in it, you can see that my students have used a PESTEL analysis. So they've looked at the political, economical, social, technological aspects of the simulation, but they have related to the company that they are looking after or they are running in this business. Because each student group about 5 students runs their own business, and they compete with each other to be the highest in terms of market share and in terms of shareholder value. So that is the general market outlook, and that's the theory that we can place on that. If I move on and we look at the next slide, again I'm using a print screen coming from Cesim Global Challenge, and it shows the various technologies that the students can launch. And they can launch them, and then they can compete for market share within the technologies. So I don't want to get maybe bogged down into explaining how the Global Challenge works, but for us teachers, this was the thing, is how do we combine this practical element of running a company within the simulation and then theory. So again, using a print screen from my students' reports, we cover directional policy matrix, and we talk about the theory, and we talk about how the students can use that within the simulation. So my students put that theory that we're doing in class and bring it into practice here in the simulation. Same also occurs here in the next slide. So we cover the basics of Porter's 5 forces, and then Porter's 4 strategies to gain competitive advantage. So my students take these theories that we're doing in class. So I teach these theories in class, and I go through them. I explain how the students can use them within the simulation.